Welcome, everyone. This is the Buttercup podcast where we talk about early childhood topics. I'm super excited today because I get to talk to the amazing, the legendary Dr. Micki Ostrosky. Thank you for being here today. So Dr. Micki Ostrosky is the Grayce, Wicall, Gauthier Professor of Education in the Department of Special Education. And she's the interim head of the Department of Curriculum and Instruction at the University of Ilinois, Urbana, Champaign. She has been at Illinois since 1991. Throughout her career, she has been involved in research and dissemination on the inclusion of children with disabilities, social and emotional competence, and challenging behavior. She was involved in the development of the pyramid model for supporting social emotional competence in young children. Dr. Ostrosky is a former editor of the Young Exceptional Children Journal and the co-editor of several Young Exceptional Children monographs. And she has co-authored over 100 peer-reviewed journal articles. That's a lot of hard work. Congratulations. And several books, including the Making Friends book from 2016, which supports the acceptance of individuals with disabilities. The Project Approach for All Learners, 2018, CHAMPS, Children in Action Motor Program for PreschoolerS, 2023, and Unpacking the Pyramid Model, a Practical Guide for Preschool Teachers, 2021. Dr. Ostrosky has been recognized for her professional accomplishments with honors such as the University of Ilinois, Urbana, Champaign University Scholar, Goldstick Family Scholar, College of Education Senior Scholar, and the Division of Early Childhood of the Council for Exceptional Children's Award for Mentoring, which we're going to be talking about today. And congratulations, this is so awesome that you got that award, most deservedly. And most recently, DEC's Mary McEvoy Service to the Field Award. Finally, Dr. Micki Ostrosky has been the advisor of more than 30 Ph.D. students who have graduated from the University of Illinois. And congratulations, because that I think is probably my favorite part of your bio, that you have 30 students that you got to help. So welcome, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for the kind introduction. I'm excited to talk about mentoring. So
I know.
Here we go.
So excited. And you're the one who gave me this idea because I don't know if you remember, but in February when we were at the CRI conference in San Diego, you and I were sitting by the fireplace and we were waiting for our ride to go to the airport. Well, and I asked you know, what's your, the highlight of your career so far, because you and Dr. Carta and Dr. Schwartz were honored at the CRI conference, and you went on stage and you're about to have a big transition, and you said,
mentoring graduate students. I love advising students and working with graduate students. So yes, I'm glad you're doing this.
Yes, and I'm learning so much from you and from other amazing mentors. And thank you, if I forget to say it later, thank you for being a mentor and for all you do for our field.
Thank you.
Well, how did you get started in our field?
Yeah, so I loved your questions, first of all. So I'll preface this by saying Marissa sent me the questions ahead of time, and they are hard questions. They're great questions. So I loved as a kid. I mean, if I think back as a child, I loved playing teacher. And I have a sister who's a year younger than me, who is legally blind in one eye. And watching, I was my mom would say she'd have to stop me sometimes from kind of being my sister's caretaker, or, you know, wanting to kind of help her with things. But I learned from that family, there are 5 of us, from our family dynamics, a lot about acceptance and a lot about accommodations, and also people's attitudes towards individuals who might be different than themselves, and about family support. So I'd say from my earliest years, I learned about, you know, inclusion and acceptance and just special ed in a very natural way, just through my family.
Very cool. And so we're talking about mentoring, and you have won awards for your mentoring. I'm friends with some of your former students who absolutely love you. And I just, over the years, I've always admired so much how you mentor and nurture people. And did you have a mentor in your life that kind of gave you a model, either that's that comes to your mind, or someone that that made a difference for you?
Yeah. Yeah. So that was a great question because it made me really think. I've had multiple mentors that have really, really impacted me. And in different ways, because they had different styles of how they engaged with us as students. So I was thinking, mostly about my grad student career. So I was really thinking about the first mentor as a graduate student that I had, and that would be Bill McInerney, who I was at the University of Toledo in 19, and this kind of goes into some of your other questions about how did it start, but in 1985 to 86. So it was right when Public Law 99-457 came out. And Bill had an OSEP grant, so an Office of Special Ed grant that I was lucky enough to be funded on. And it was about a 13-month master's program. And we had the option of doing a project or a thesis. And he saw something in me that I was interested in research. And so I was the only one in our cohort who did a thesis. And it meant I was doing a research study and going through all the processes needed to do a research study. And he saw something in me about kind of my passion, my interest in research, my curiosity about research. And he's the one that pushed me then of, you should think about a PhD program. I'd never thought about a PhD program until that point. So I would say he was a mentor because he saw something in me that I didn't at that point see in myself. He then helped me look at graduate programs and he told me which ones I should consider applying for. I remember him asking me, whose articles, when you read their articles in our classes, which ones are you most interested in? Look at the authors. And I was someone at that point who I would read an article, but I'd skip over the citations. I didn't know you were supposed to pay attention to the citations and who did the work. And he's like, pay attention to who is it that wrote the things that you get excited about and you want to read. So I would say Bill definitely kind of started it. And then there were others, Ann Kaiser, Sam Odom in particular, who were strong mentors for me at Vanderbilt and made a huge impact on my life also. But I'd say Bill was kind of the first one in graduate school.
Oh, that is so neat. Oh, I love that. And so he saw an interest in you as a researcher, as a scholar, and just kind of picked up on your curiosity. And so was it like a formal mentorship or informal, or was he like an advisor?
Yeah, so he was my advisor. So I would say because he was the co-PI on that grant, the co-principal investigator, he was my advisor. And then I worked with him on the thesis. So then we became even closer because then he helped me design the study and talked to me about data collection and made me aware of things that you have to think about when you do a research study. So, and then helped me edit it and write it up and edit it. So yeah, so I would say it started out probably informally. I mean, he was my advisor, but then as we worked on the thesis together, it became a little more solidified as I was going to him a lot with questions and trying to understand it all.
That is awesome. And in your bio, it said 1991 was when you started at
That was when I
University.
went to Vanderbilt. Yeah. Yeah. So my master, no, 1991 is when I started at Illinois, right? 1986 to 85 to 86, I was at Toledo, and then I went to Vanderbilt right after my master's program at 86 and was there till 91, and then came to Illinois and was lucky enough to get a position at a Research One university and have stayed here my whole career. So 33 years later, I'm getting ready to retire.
Oh, and did you find mentors when you got to University of Illinois that that you worked with your scholarship or teaching or both?
Yeah, absolutely. So when Illinois' position came open, this department of special ed had a reputation nationally of just being a great group of people who are collaborative and just really nice people to work with. And I remember others in my cohort at Vanderbilt, we talked about how you could kind of be the big fish in a sea where you might be the only one, say in early childhood special ed or whatever your area was, or you could be, with a bunch of several other people who you might collaborate with who were also in your area, but you might be the little fish then. And I really wanted to be able to collaborate with people. So I was really happy to come here. And Jeanette McCullum was here, Susan Fowler, Merle Carnes. So I had a Jim Halley, a dear friend. So I had lots of great people to collaborate with and to write grants with, to problem solve with. And they provided a lot of mentoring to me. There also was a man, he's passed away since, Bob Henderson, who was a former Marine, who he and I were early birds and would get to the office early and like 7:30 or 8. And he liked to make coffee that was super strong, like mud. So I would try to get here first and make coffee, the pot of coffee that was not so strong. And he was a great informal mentor. He wasn't in my area, but I could ask him all kind of questions about university policies and procedures and who do I go to for this or this. So even though he wasn't in early childhood special ed or social communication, things I liked to study, he also was just a great informal mentor that, I met around the coffee pot every single day and would just ask him any of my questions that were more process wise or procedural things about just being in academia and being in academia at Illinois. What did it mean? So
it sounds like your mentors have um, come about through formal ways, your advisor, and then you do work with them, but also informal ways, like you both have something in common, like you're both early birds and you're at the water cooler making coffee and
exactly.
getting things ready for the day, and you just kind of find people that are like-minded and also interested in the same things, and you can learn from them as their
Yeah.
mentor.
And I think that it's an interesting point, Marissa, because I think at least at Illinois now, we have a formal mentoring kind of system arrangement where new faculty get partnered with someone who we think might be a good mentor for them. But that's not your only mentor, and we tell them that you will find other people, maybe who have been here a couple years, before you to join the faculty, or maybe they're in another department and they might be mentors to you too. So you don't have to feel like once you're assigned or partnered with someone, that's the only mentor. And I go to my cohort, my good friends from Vanderbilt from grad school. We mentor each other too. I learn from them a lot too when I'm doing things. So I see mentorship as crossing lots of different layers and levels and interest areas. What do you need the mentor? What do you hope you'll gain from the mentor? What's the purpose of that kind of mentoring relationship can vary.
What's the biggest thing you've learned from a mentor?
Oh boy.
Or biggest lesson you've learned from a mentor?
Yeah. Oh, so many things I've learned. Probably the importance of individualizing, I would say, because even if several of us say we're Ann Kaiser or Sam Odom's or Bill McInerney's advisees at the same time, and they were our mentors, we all didn't need the same things. We didn't come in with the same experiences. We all didn't have the same style of working and the kind of feedback we might want. And so I think the importance for me as a mentor for so many students is trying to have those conversations with them. What's their style like? What do they want? This is my style, but what do you need from me? And, realizing people are just coming with different both knowledge levels and experiences. And so meeting them where they're at and then going from there. So I'd say I learned that from a lot from them.
That is awesome. I love that. So individualization and different uh, mentorships are unique, just like relationships in life.
Yes,
No two will be
absolutely.
alike.
Absolutely.
So you've been mentored by some of the greats in our field. And when we were at the conference in February, Dr. Odom was there and Dr. Kaiser was there. And it must be super neat to go to conferences and see your mentors and
Yes.
mentees too.
Absolutely. It's great to connect. And in fact, I think that's one of the great things about us getting to go to conferences. Not only get to share your work, but you get to reconnect and the networking, meeting new people, spending time sitting like you and I on the couch, and getting to have time just to talk and hear what other people are doing. So, and then also connecting with former students, but also former advisors too. So, yeah.
One of the other things that you told me on the couch when we were by the fireplace was that mentoring was one of the highlights. And I loved what you said about writing, and writing for practitioners is
Yeah.
something that you've really enjoyed doing over the years. And
Oh, you have a good memory, Marissa.
thank
Yes.
you for doing that. Well,
Yeah.
you're the reason why I wanted to do this mentoring series, because after I left that, I was talking to my student, who I'm a mentor to, and she's my mentee. And I was saying, I just got to talk to the amazing Dr. Ostrosky, and these were the things we talked about. And what do you think about this?
Oh,
And I love what you said about mentoring, and also about who you write for and why you
mhm,
like to write for
mhm.
that audience. And I've never thought of it that way before, and I really like how you put it.
Great.
Um, but so thank you for doing that. So if you had to think of like your philosophy on being a mentor, what what would you say is like your motto, or what you try to do with students,
Yeah, so
or not just students, because you're a mentor to many people.
yeah.
It's not just grad students or undergrads, or could be early career people, could be colleagues.
Yeah, I would definitely say junior faculty or colleagues and student, and of course graduate students. So I loved this question. It got me thinking. I put down like several things on my notes. So I'll kind of talk to you about what I think my philosophy is. So one is I would say to take a developmental perspective. And this kind of goes with the individualization piece that when students come to me, like someone might have been out of school for years, or someone might be coming to the US and coming to Illinois from another country where special ed is at a very different place. And they might not have any background even in US laws or kind of philosophy around family-centered practice, whatever. So thinking when I mentor about a developmental perspective of where the student or the person, it could be a junior faculty member, is at, and always trying to move someone further along, than where they're at. So that would be something. A second part of my philosophy has always been is I don't assume to know what other people have going on in their personal life or on their plate. So when I first meet, if someone is interested, we do temporary advising at Illinois where you come in, you're assigned to someone who's outside your field, and then you go and talk to the faculty and you make a conscious decision with the faculty member of who will be your permanent advisor. So when I talk to potential doc students, I say I don't like to set timelines for them because I don't know what else they have on their plate and going on at home. And so I really then try to work with them and collaborate to figure out, what supports do they need? What's their timeline? Because I don't want to I don't want to cause someone more stress than what a doc program is like anyway, or a tenure track position is. So trying to negotiate what works for someone else. I think another part of my philosophy is that timely feedback is critical. Now, some of my friends will say that sometimes I have shot myself in the foot because I'll, read papers on weekends or at night, and then people expect you'll turn things around quickly for them. But I think it's important that you don't hold on to things for long periods, like for a month, and then give feedback on something because it can delay someone else's work. So, but then that for us as faculty means don't take on too many advisees that you can't really manage, because it is important to get timely feedback to people. Another one is connections, and I talked about this at DEC some. I think it's a part of my philosophy too, is connecting students with each other or connecting junior faculty with other junior faculty. So if you see interest between two people, or I have a brand new student and they're going to soon be doing an early research project, I might suggest they contact another former student or a student who's more senior and ask that person, can I see the PowerPoint you used when you did your proposal? So they can learn from each other, but also be connected and network with each other. So I'm a strong believer in trying to connect people. And then I think my philosophy too is like meetings when people need meetings. For some students, is at the beginning of their program, might not need to meet very often. They're mostly doing coursework. So, but yet as students are on to the phase of like dissertation, they might need to meet, regularly, like every week or so. So then I really try to structure my adjust, I guess I would say, my mentoring based on where the student is at in the program and what they need. And then finally, my philosophy has to do with editing and APA, that I'm like I will get on, I will edit strongly around APA on papers and stuff at the beginning. And then I'll start kind of teasing my students, like, I'm not going through that reference list and do an APA. You need to do it yourself. But I think when you get like articles that aren't in APA or done well, or you get a dissertation, and if your department follows APA guidelines, it doesn't, it kind of reflects then, are you not being careful if it's not done carefully? So I take editing, and I like to edit very seriously, but my students will then tease me that I'm editing on top of my own edits. So that can be, it could also be a problem, but I think that's part of our job as mentors too is to not only help students see the big picture, but to help with editing so that they're writing as scholars, because they come in with different, we come in, yeah, we can write newsletters if we're a classroom teacher, or write letters of reference if we're a classroom teacher or worked in home-based programs. Excuse me. But writing in a scholarly way is really different, but we don't learn that unless someone helps us we may not learn it unless someone takes the time to really help us and point out to us where our strengths are, but also where we need advanced organizers, where we need transition statements, where we need to define terms, whatever the issue is. So I'd say all of those things together I would say, fit with my philosophy.
Oh my gosh, I love that so much. Thank you, Dr. Ostrosky. That is just beautiful, and I can see you with your students now, and the connector part. I just think all of it is just so amazing, and students are very lucky to have you for a mentor. Not just students, but people are super lucky to have you, because you need all of that, and being able to have somebody to go to that cares about you, like the way you care about your students. And I think what you're doing is so cool.
Thank you.
Well, has your mentoring changed over time? Have you always had that philosophy and the approach that you have now, or has it changed?
Yeah, I'd say I certainly learned, I'm sure my first 5 advisees or mentees are different than how my, more later ones are. So I certainly have learned things. So I would hope I'm a better mentor. I think some things that have changed are things like the result of COVID, having these kind of meetings over Zoom, where before we would always meet face to face. It's easier sometimes to schedule meetings now because you can do them Zoom. It doesn't matter where you are. I think meeting in coffee shops. So more informal, I would say, meetings, which makes the relationship a little bit more informal, which can be, at least in my style and at Illinois, is helpful. That I always try to remind myself too that my graduate students are going to be my future colleagues. So as they're moving along, right, in the process, as you were talking about your student, they're becoming our colleagues that we might be writing with when we're done, or having a project with when they're done. We might be on committees with them as equals, as colleagues. So trying to, in a developmental perspective too, thinking about that too. So that's probably changed some. I probably was a little more formal at the beginning of mentoring, and probably because I was young. And so my age wasn't that much different than the age of my initial doctoral students. So, maybe I was more formal because of that. But yeah, I'd say a little more informality. Definitely the technology and the fact that we can meet in so many coffee shops helps, and has probably changed me some as a mentor.
That is great. When you were talking about uh, your style with mentoring writers,
Mhm.
and being able to support writers, it was making me think of my own mentors as writers, as I was learning how to write in this scholarly way. And you're so right, it is completely different than what you do as a teacher, or if you are uh, in a profession before you come into grad school.
Yeah.
The writing is so different, and to have a mentor that you can go to that can show you, okay, this is APA style, and this is the conventions we use, and it's okay to make mistakes, but this is how we do it. And
I had a conversation with a PhD student the other day. Well, she's graduating in 2 weeks, and we were talking about edits. And I have said to her many times, especially over the last couple of years, if you don't agree with the edits I make on the paper, that you would not say it that way. You don't have, it's your paper. You don't have to say it. And she was saying to me, you never took away my voice when you made edits. I always felt like at the end, it was still my writing, my voice. And I took that as a really strong compliment, because I think as mentors, sometimes we could change things where it's like, I wrote that paper, not you. And who wants that, right? Like, it's one thing to make it into a more scholarly paper, but don't take away the person's voice, that what they bring to that paper, and the things that they think, the style they would write, or how they would write, or the experiences they're bringing into it. So do you feel that
yes,
way? Yeah. Do you feel?
yes, Definitely, yes. I think so. One of my mentors at University of Oregon was Dr. Diane Bricker, and she taught me how to write, and I'm so grateful to her because when I came into the program, I was a completely different writer. And if you've saved your writing and looked at your own growth and patterns over time, you can go back and see where you came from, and that mentor makes such a big difference. So Dr. Bricker was like by far my biggest teacher and mentor that taught me how to write. And I feel like I learned so many techniques and strategies. And if I break the rules, I know I'm breaking them because she taught me, like, this is how you do it.
There you go.
Stefano Vignato from University of Pittsburgh, and he's a completely different kind of mentor, and we've written lots of things together, and I've learned so much from him. And over time I have learned to be more creative with my voice, and like found different parts of myself as a writer through getting to work with him and his mentoring. And I think those two mentors made such a difference. And then when we were at DEC one year, I went to a session that Dr. Dr. Pat Snyder from University of Florida put on. It was a panel, and she was leading the panel. And at the time, she was the editor of JEI, the Journal for Early Intervention. And I remember her talking about editorial work. And I just thought, oh my gosh, that is so neat. All of the work that editors put in and contribute, and they're not always on papers. And so they are kind of like the unsung heroes and behind the scenes that nobody really gives credit to, but they do such important work. And one of the things she talked about was the term lagniappe, and I've never heard it before, Lagniappe. And she was saying that it's a French Creole word that when she used to live in New Orleans, and this idea of lagniappe. And basically what it means is a little something extra. So I think sometimes, like if you go to the makeup counter and Clinique has a gift with purchase, that's lagniappe, little something extra. Or if you go to the Saturday market and you buy blood oranges and they throw in some chestnuts, that's a lagniappe, little something extra. And I think, as mentors, we add so much value, and then as mentees, our mentors add so much value, and that little something extra, like teaching someone about APA if they don't already know it, and individualizing for them and finding out where they're at and connecting them to people that could make a difference.
Yeah, I think these are great points. And I think having these conversations with students, like if your students are listening to this podcast and they're thinking about themselves as future mentors or as current mentors, and someone asks you to edit, can you edit this paper for me or read it for me? Finding out what exactly do you mean by that? Do you want kind of big picture? Do you really want me to edit it? And having conversations about those kind of style things, because I would never want someone to think I'm trying to take away your voice, or I'm gonna totally, write this paper as my paper when it's yours. So if I'm trying to help a brand new PhD student in scholarly writing, helping them understand, that's what my point is. I'm trying to help you help the reader understand the flow of the paper, help them understand the transitions, help them understand where you're going. And yeah, we don't always have those conversations, I don't think. So then the student gets the paper and it has all these edits over it. And they're, kind of devastated. Like, wait, I used to be able to write a newsletter or do whatever, and look at all these edits on this paper. What's wrong? And I'll say to students too, sometimes I'm writing questions to you just because I'm curious. I found something interesting, and I wonder what you would have thought if this happened, or I want more details about a study you read in the lit review because I never saw that study before and it sounds intriguing to me.
Yeah. Yes. And I think also when I think of you as being a mentor, and you have had so many doctoral students and people that you've changed their lives. If you were to think of like the biggest lesson that you've learned from being a mentor, what would it be?
I would say I'd go back to the idea of connecting people, that I think the importance, because it warms my heart when I see two of my former students and they're collaborating on a grant, and they may not have been even in the same cohort, or they're writing a paper together, or they're on a committee and now they're doing something together. And sometimes I'll go to introduce students and it's like, oh, I already know, or former students, oh, I already know so and so. And our field is so small, right? And I think Ami Santos and I have really, we are passionate about DEC as our professional home. So we have really pushed our students to be involved, to do journal reviewing for young exceptional children or journal of early intervention or topics, be involved on committees. And so it really does warm my heart because I forget sometimes, like, what cohort, who knows who, and our students are very involved in things. And when they're supporting each other and collaborating with each other, I think that is great. And so again, the whole idea of lesson learn of how important it is to connect people together, and that some people are shy or they may not have the opportunities at the university they're at to reach across, the table and meet someone else or do some things with other people, but we can help support that as mentors.
That is great. Well, is there anything that one of your mentors did that you either do or don't do now as you have mentees and you're the mentor?
Wait, say that one again.
I know that was salad. Uh, is there anything that you do because you learned it from your mentor,
Mm,
or
well,
maybe not do because you learned it?
I try not to make people cry. I feel bad like that. So I think having some of these conversations early. So even in classes when I teach, before I give back papers, I'll say to students, okay, you might have heard that I write a lot on papers and I like to edit. So before I turn your papers back, do not, whatever. I'm someone too who still likes to print things off and hard copy, write on hard copy. So I was on 4 dissertations in the last couple of weeks, and I'm like printing them off and hard. So then I give them to the student, and Jessica Hardy joked with me the other day. She said, "I can't believe there was something that we got that was a short. It wasn't a dissertation, and I edited on the document online." And she's like, "That was, I think, the first time I've ever seen you do that." And I'm like, "I could change too after all these years." So probably helping students know kind of where I'm coming from at the beginning has probably I've learned from my students over the years, because maybe it didn't work so well, like they were devastated if they got a paper, they got feedback. And I think the importance I probably learned from them too of giving positives too, making sure when I read that dissertation that I'm a committee member, it's not even my advisee. I'm a committee member on, making sure I'm periodically telling them this is really interesting. This was a great chapter. This really flowed. Because sometimes I get caught up in the weeds of making kind of edits or asking questions on the document. I forget to acknowledge the positives and remind, and they're learning and we're learning. And we all, even when we get reviews, right? We want to get a journal review article and have someone say, is there anything valuable in this article or not? So
Well, one thing I've learned from you, Dr. Ostrosky, is that the importance of relationships. And a mentorship is a relationship. And one of the little extra things that you did for me that I still have it in my office on my cork board is you sent me a handwritten letter. I was a guest on your guys' podcast, and
yes.
and when it was over, I got a handwritten greeting card in the mail, and I was like, oh my gosh, like I never get greeting cards in the mail. And I just thought, I'm going to start doing that. I love that. But I'm not as organized, I guess, or I need to be better at it. But I just love how you did that. And that's lagniappe. That's that little something extra. And you didn't have to do it, but I thought, oh my gosh, I'm so honored that you sent me
Oh,
mail.
thank you. Well, I'm glad. Thank you. Yeah, I think it's the acknowledging the positives too, because it's like you could do it. You do work for someone else, you collaborate with someone, or you mentor a student, and then just acknowledging. I teased we just had our National Training Institute down in Tampa, and my doc student who's graduating in 2 weeks, it was the first time I could introduce her as Dr. Williams. And I did that. And then people in the audience kept running into her and they kept calling her Dr. Williams. And she was just so touched. And, it was just kind of me remembering, right? Like, oh, I haven't gotten to introduce her as a professor yet. So I should take it. But, sometimes we get busy, right? We forget the little things that really can impact each other. So, yeah, thanks.
Yes. And that is a big thing when you first are newly minted PhD, when you hear the doctor in front of your last name, it's like,
Yes.
who are they talking about? Oh,
Yeah,
that's
right.
me now.
I did work all those years so hard for this and I got it. Yeah.
Yes, yes. Acknowledging the hard work and achievement.
Yeah.
It's really exciting to see when students cross that finish line.
Yes.
Well, is there any final words you want to say about mentoring, about mentorships?
No, I think when you just said that though, about like us talking about acknowledgement, I do think like celebrating the little things. I was just having lunch in Tampa, also at NTI, with a former student, and we had written a paper that was published, but then we had a second paper we want to work on, and we sat down to have lunch, and I right away started talking about, okay, so for the next paper, and she's like, Micki, let's pause. This is a celebratory lunch to celebrate the one that we got published. And I'm like, you know what? You are so right. Cause I'm like jumping, I'm very task oriented. So I'm like jumping on to the next, and it kind of made me pause to go, and yeah, we need to stop and celebrate those, any kind of little triumphs that we've had, and not just jump right into, okay, what's the next thing on the to-do list. So it was a good reminder for me as a mentor of, yeah, you're right. A collaborator really. But yeah, you're right. Let's celebrate first. And then next week we'll send an email and follow up on the next to-do list items. So
Oh yeah,
yeah.
that is great advice, to celebrate and take the moment to just acknowledge the achievement, or the cool thing that we're working for. I think it's natural to, like, okay, we did it, now let's go on to the next thing.
Yes,
But it's
yes.
kind of like, let's just absorb this moment and soak it in, because it'll never come around again, and just enjoy it.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for being an amazing mentor, and for giving me this idea to talk to other people who are mentors, because I think in the academy, it's not really something you're evaluated on per se. People count up how many publications you have and teaching evaluations, but mentorships don't get as much recognition, I don't think, as other parts of the job. And I think when you are a good mentor, you are like worth gold to your
True.
students and to the people that you mentor. And I just feel like there's not enough awards to go around to people who do good mentoring of others. And so thank you for this.
Well, thank you for inviting me. I really appreciate it.
Well, how can people follow you?
Yeah, so probably follow me on email me if you have questions. So Ostrosky, my last name, at illinois.edu is probably the easiest way. We have 3 grants that we provide professional development resources from those grants. One is IEL, the Early Learning Project. If you look up Illinois, sorry, IEL, Illinois Early Learning Project, IEL. If you look up that and put in University of Illinois, it should pull up, and you can find a lot of our resources, including Marissa's podcast on there about Reggio Emilia. And then we also have another grant, EITP, Early Intervention Training Program, that focuses on birth to 3 resources, early intervention training program you could find. And then a third project that I have is called OneOp, capital ONE, capital OP. And it's a grant that's focused on military families, has free webinars, but it's really, it's professional development. It's really focused on professionals who work with families that include civilian or active military families across the world. But there's a lot of free webinars on there too that you could use in classes or just to learn information on. So you can find any of those through the university, or email me at ostrosky.illinois.edu, and I'd be glad to connect you with other resources or talk to anyone else who wants to talk about mentoring or other things.
Awesome.
Thank you, Marissa. What a great idea.
Thank you for being an inspirational leader in our field, and for the work you do for children with disabilities and their families. And I just have admired you for so many years, and I'm just so honored to be able to talk to you. And thank you for all you have done with your career, Micki, and all of the mentoring you've done, but just how you've devoted your life to this amazing work that you do.
Thank you so much. And thanks for inviting me.